The movie starts with a young man named John. John wakes up in the morning and decides not to go to school today because he wants to play on the computer. He finds a note from his mom asking him to go buy food and supplies for the house, but John ignores the note and sits at the computer to play with his friends. While he's playing, one of his friends in the game says, "Turn on the TV now and watch the news." John gets curious and turns on the TV. The news anchor is talking, but suddenly the signal cuts off. John grabs his phone and finds there's no network. He looks out the window and sees people running in panic, some attacking each other for no apparent reason. He sees a girl biting her mother in a horrifying scene. John is shocked and doesn't understand what's happening. There's no help arriving, and then he hears people screaming in his building. When he looks through the peephole, he doesn't see anyone, so he decides to open the door. Suddenly, his neighbor rushes in, saying that people outside have gone crazy, and his brother came home as a zombie and tried to kill him. The neighbor asks to stay with John for a while, but John refuses and tells him to call the police if he has a problem. The neighbor calms down and asks to use the bathroom, promising to leave afterward. John agrees and lets him in. Meanwhile, the TV signal returns, and it's announced that the signals and communications are unstable. The cities are in chaos due to a recently spread infection that turns people into zombies. The infected become extremely violent and feed on human flesh. If anyone is bitten by a zombie, they will turn into one. Symptoms of the infection include bleeding from the eyes, and the news anchor mentions that the infected experience severe pain. John remembers his neighbor in the bathroom and goes to get a knife to protect himself. The neighbor comes out, covering a wound on his neck. John raises the knife, but the neighbor tries to calm him down, saying he's fine and just wants to stay for an hour. John sees blood on his hand and gets scared. Soon the neighbor's eye starts bleeding. When he looks in the mirror, he screams and has convulsions. His bones start to deform and he fully transforms into a zombie. He attacks John, trying to bite him, but John quickly pushes him out of the house and attacks him with the knife to keep him out. John succeeds and locks himself inside. Looking through the peephole, John sees a huge zombie attacking his neighbor and then eating his body. John is shocked and stays silent so the zombie won't hear him. He sees his neighbor's blood seeping under the door and is terrified. He grabs a large table and blocks the apartment door to prevent anyone from coming in. He goes to wash his face, hoping it's just a dream, but realizes it's real. He tries to call his sister, but the network is bad. He receives a message from his sister saying not to worry about them, they're safe. She tells him never to open the door and to make sure he has enough food to last for many days. She warns him about the zombies filling the city. John looks at a picture of his family, hoping they stay safe. He checks all the food in the house and discovers there's very little left. He regrets not listening to his mom and going out to buy food. He goes to sleep in the couch. The next day, he hears on the news that the infection has spread and many people have turned into zombies. The news anchor asks a doctor for a solution, and she says that zombies are extremely violent and everyone should stay safe and stock up on food for 2 months. No one should leave their house until further notice. John sees people posting pictures and their addresses online asking for help from the army and police. John decides to do the same and takes a picture of himself with his name and address written on a piece of paper. He uploads the picture online, asking for help. He watches a video of a man trying to get a signal by standing on his balcony with his phone. The man manages to get a signal, but then loses his balance and falls. Manage from this and takes out a drone. He attaches his phone to the drone, connects it to his glasses, and controls the drone to fly in the air. He sees the buildings and people who have turned into zombies. He flies the drone higher to get a signal, and it works. He gets a signal and calls his sister, but unfortunately the drone's battery dies and it falls along with the phone. John falls into despair and sits at the computer to play games to pass the time, but he can't continue playing. Due to network disruptions, he hears noises from the street at night. He looks out the window, but suddenly a bullet is fired in his direction from afar. It turns out a policewoman is trying to kill the zombies and escape, but there are too many zombies and she runs out of bullets. She tries to reload quickly but doesn't manage to kill the remaining zombies, so she decides to commit suicide. She tries to kill herself but fails, and the zombies drag her to the ground. John sees this and wants to get the gun to protect himself. Then he hears someone banging on his apartment door. He grabs a bat and prepares himself. The force of the banging moves the table, revealing a zombie behind it. John is startled and tries to push the table to block the zombie, but realizes he can't and runs to the balcony. He thinks of a plan and runs to the balcony, pretending to jump. The zombie follows and jumps, but John didn't actually jump and hangs onto the balcony. He watches the zombie fall and die, feeling relieved. He sees a large crowd of zombies in the distance, including the policewoman who has turned into a zombie. John nails the apartment door shut to prevent anyone from breaking in. John finds that all the food he had fell from the table due to the zombie, feeling frustrated as it was all he had left. He hears a woman screaming in the street and takes out his tablet to record a video. He says it's his second day trapped in the house and doesn't know what to do, feeling like it's a miracle he's still alive. After 7 days of the infection, John decides to drink his father's alcohol as there's nothing else to drink in the house. He covers his balcony to prevent zombies from seeing him and watches the news showing zombies filling the streets. He eats instant noodles and throws the TV remote in frustration. He gets angry when he spills water as it's the only water he has left. He regrets wasting it and drinks the water from the floor. Despite everything, John never leaves the house, even though he wants to get the policewoman's gun. When he turns on the TV, he sees the same news with no solution in sight. The news anchors urge people to stay indoors. Days pass with no new developments. John drinks his father's alcohol and dances, imagining his family coming to him. When he sees his mother, he hugs her, but then realizes it was a hallucination and cries over his situation. He feels dizzy from dehydration and receives a voice message from his mother. He tries to get a signal and listen to it because he misses his mom a lot and wants to check on her. He goes out the window like this to get a signal and call her. The move works and his mom answers, telling him they are at his dad's company. But suddenly, zombies break into the company where his mom and John's sister are, and John hears them screaming as the zombies attack and kill them. John cries for them. In a fit of rage, he starts breaking things in the house, including the TV, and goes crazy to the point where he leaves his apartment and kills the zombie outside, screaming in despair. He sees his neighbor on the ground eating a corpse, and the neighbor starts approaching him. John yells at him to stay away, but because of John's loud voice, the zombies hear him and start approaching. John quickly runs to the elevator, but there is a zombie inside, so he runs and hides, holding his breath so the zombies won't hear him. He sneaks back to his apartment, but a blind zombie appears behind him. John stands still and silent, letting the zombie pass by before returning to his apartment. The zombies hear John as he closes the door and try to break in, but John holds the door until they leave. After 20 days, John has finished all the alcohol and sees the power stations exploding, causing a blackout in his building. He loses hope and falls into depression. He tries to make a video but can't speak a word due to his despair. He decides to end his suffering by hanging himself, but suddenly a laser light shines on him from the building opposite. The laser points to a word, making John reconsider suicide. He unties himself and realizes a woman named Kim lives in the building opposite. She uses the laser to stop him from killing himself and communicates with him using words on a board. She tells him not to speak so the zombies won't hear and agrees to communicate using sign language. She calls him stupid for thinking about suicide. They agree to meet at the window at 7 a.m. They close the window doors, and John is happy to find someone alive. Regaining hope, we see Kim in her house, setting traps at the door and preparing weapons. She has enough food. The next morning, John wakes up late and finds Kim isn't there. Kim sees him, checks that it's safe, and comes out, telling him he missed their meeting time. John apologizes and they get to know each other. Later, Kim finds a zombie in her house and agrees with John to meet at the window at 7 a.m. She returns home and sees the zombie caught in her trap, kills it with a hammer, and it starts raining at night. They use the opportunity to put out all the cups and plates to collect water. The next day, John meets Kim at the window at 7 a.m., looking very hungry. She understands and decides to send him food. She tries to throw a ball to create a rope between them, but the plan fails because the distance is too far. John uses another drone he has, ties a rope to it, and sends it to Kim. Kim manages to send a bag of food to John, who is very happy and thanks her. But he notices a disaster in the street. A zombie grabs the rope Kim threw and pulls it hard, dragging the table and causing Kim to fall. The table with the rope gets stuck in front of the picture, and the zombie uses the rope to climb. Kim is unconscious, and John tries to do something. He throws bottles at the zombie, but they don't reach. The zombie continues climbing, so John sends the drone to distract it. Meanwhile, many zombies try to break into John's house. The zombie grabs the drone with its hand and is about to enter Kim's apartment, but she wakes up, cuts off its hand, and kills it. The zombies below keep screaming at her. her. John wraps cloth around his feet to move silently and leaves his apartment with a stick. He sees his neighbor's corpse on the ground, takes the keys to his apartment, and enters. He opens the fridge, takes all the food he can, and finds a corpse in the room. He enters the room, finds 2 walkie-talkies, and takes them, checking if the corpse is alive or dead. Suddenly, a zombie attacks him from behind, and John uses the dead body as a shield, escaping back to his apartment safely. He enjoys the food he got from his neighbor's apartment and sends some food and a walkie-talkie to Kim. The next day, they communicate through the walkie-talkie, and John is happy to finally talk to someone. She thanks him for the food he sent, and he says he should thank her for saving his life. Kim tells him she didn't save his life. He wanted to live and found her as a reason to live. John says he would have died without her. They change the subject, cook together at the same time, and talk all day, getting to know each other better. She tells him she's afraid of heights, and John is surprised that someone who cut off a zombie's hand is afraid of heights. Kim says she doesn't consider them human, so it was easy to cut off its hand. They both hear the sound of rain and are happy to collect water, but it turns out it's not rain. It was a horde of zombies running fast and entering the buildings. Our heroes lie on the ground, trying not to make any noise, but Kim accidentally knocks over the table and the zombies hear the sound, approaching her apartment. She gets very worried and tells John about the disaster she's in. John decides to help her by calling another apartment in Kim's building, diverting the zombies towards the sound and away from Kim's apartment. They agree to leave the street and find a safe place because Kim believes the 8th floor of a certain building is safe and has no zombies. She assures John of this, saying she's been watching the floor for days and hasn't seen any zombies. Kim decides to risk her life and goes down first, tying herself with a rope and jumping out of her window, fighting any zombies in her way with her weapons. Despite their large number, she manages to handle them. John is impressed and gets the gun on the ground. A zombie is about to bite her, but John intervenes. It turns out John also came down and fights the zombies. They team up, fight the zombies, run into the building and lock the door, but the glass won't hold for long and the zombies will break it. Our heroes take the elevator, finding safety for a while, and go to the 8th floor. They check the floor and find no trace of zombies, trying to open any apartment door, but all are locked. They see a zombie coming towards them, and seconds later, a large army arrives, and John drops an iron door in their path to delay them. He fights them until Kim manages to open one of the apartments, and someone pulls her inside. This person throws a smoke grenade and calls for John to come in. John enters, and they are safe. Kim is scared of the man and asks who he is. The man named Sang tells her she should thank him. Kim is surprised to see a man here and says she was sure there was no one on the 8th floor. Sang says he also thought he was the only one alive in the area. He offers them water, but Kim is not comfortable with him. When he drinks from the same water, she relaxes and drinks too. Sang offers them food and tells them to eat until the rescue team arrives. They are surprised and happy to hear that a rescue team is coming. Sang says he learned this from the TV. John is very happy, hugs Kim, and feels hopeful about surviving. But minutes later, John loses consciousness. It turns out Sang had put a sedative in the food. Kim doesn't have time to react and faints. Sang drags her into a room, ties her up, and locks her in. When Kim wakes up, she finds a zombie tied next to her. Sang releases the zombie's rope from outside, making it approach Kim. It turns out the zombie is Sang's wife, and he wants her to feed on any human and eat them. That's why he let her attack Kim. At the same time, John wakes up, points a gun at Sang, and calls him a monster. Sang says he's trying to save his wife from death and releases the zombie's rope. John runs to grab it, pulling the zombie away from Kim. Sang grabs a knife and tells John to let his wife eat Kim, promising to let him live and give him all the food he wants. He begs John to agree. John can't hold the rope for long and it slips from his hand. Kim keeps screaming. John tries to open the door, but Sang knocks him to the ground. Kim stops screaming and they think she has been bitten. Sang opens the door to see what happened, but his zombie wife attacks him. Kim grabs the gun, points it at them, and Sang lets his wife eat him without resisting. Kim shoots them both, killing them. All the zombies in the area hear the gunshots and start heading towards the apartment where Kim and John are. Our heroes hear the zombies approaching and fall into despair, thinking it's the end. Kim gives the gun to John and asks him to shoot her. After some thought, John listens to her, crying and hesitating. Suddenly, they hear the sound of helicopters. They see the helicopters from the window and head to the roof to be seen. They throw smoke grenades and fight the zombies, making their way to the roof. They shoot any zombies in their path. While climbing the stairs, they manage to knock Kim down. John goes in, saves her, and tries to stop them with the bike, ordering Kim to go up and stop the helicopter. She reaches the roof, but the helicopters have left. John follows her, closes the door behind him, buys some time, and is is shocked to find the helicopter's gone. It yells for help from anyone. They realize it's the end. The zombies break the door and run towards him. John kills 2 of them with the gun, but runs out of bullets. Suddenly, an army helicopter appears. Soldiers open fire on the zombies, killing them one by one. John and Kim get on the helicopter, which flies away. Our heroes survived by a miracle. They hear on the radio that there are more than 50 infected in the city, which has become almost deserted. The army found John's location through the picture he posted. If you made it to the end of this video, share this video to your friends.